and share my screen with you already. And it would be amazing if Lynn, for example, or someone else could also give me a quick thumbs up that I know screen is visible for you guys. Okay, awesome. Thanks a lot. So we're going to start now. Welcome, everyone. Thanks a lot for joining our webinar today. As you all know, we want to talk about Widgetbook today, and I'm going to show you how you can simplify your design systems and also your reviews with Widgetbook. I'm Lucas, co-founder and CEO of Widgetbook, and I'd like to start the webinar with a brief question. My colleague Julius is going to put a link to a quick type form. It takes like 5 seconds in the chat, because we're very curious to learn if you used the open source Widgetbook beforehand or not. So it would be amazing if all of you could briefly fill that survey, because then we know if you are already experienced with Widgetbook or not. For all of you that are not too familiar with Widgetbook yet, what are we doing? We are primarily an open source package and an open source company. We are very active in the Flutter community, so we've been organizing a lot of Flutter meetups, events, and also AfterCon, for example, FlutterCon after parties at Widgetbook that you can, for example, see here in the left picture. On the right side, you can see our team. So we have 6 people working full-time, day and night, just on Widgetbook. And we are, of course, not only organizing events, we are also building something valuable for the community. And for the past 1.5 years, we've been building an open source package that has already been featured by Google's Flutter team, where we are featured as experts for both design systems and also designer developer collaboration. So if you go to our website, you can see a demo video where not I am talking about Widgetbook, but where Adobo, the product manager of Flutter, is explaining what Widgetbook is. And for the past nearly 2 years, we've been working together very actively with amazing customers. And just in July, Albert is sending hearts here. Amazing. Albert was one of the customers that joined us on stage at FlutterCon in July. So we had 3 selected customers that we brought with us on stage to explain what is Widgetbook and how can companies benefit from Widgetbook. And we shared live showcases of our customers. And one of the companies shared publicly that every developer and every designer working with Widgetbook is saving 20% of their time. But what are we going to learn today? So today we're going to first of all cover the open source package, where we learn about how we can build our own design system with Widgetbook. And secondly, we're going to learn how we can use the open source Widgetbook to also quickly test all of our widgets in different use cases. And afterwards, we're going to cover Widgetbook Cloud, because Widgetbook Cloud allows you to simplify your UI reviews. And there we're going to learn how we can easily host our Widgetbook, how we can automate golden tests to very quickly detect all of the UI changes, and to then simplify our design reviews in a structured review process. And with that, let's jump straight in. So how does app development usually start? It usually starts with the client. And the client has some idea that needs to be brought into life. And that's in the beginning the designer's job. So the designer is working closely together with the client to really meet the client's needs. And when the designer did that, and it's very clear this app now that we want to build should stay around for more than 6 months, usually the designer's next step is to create a design system. And it's something that is for a designer quite easy to do. So nowadays we have tools like Figma. I'm sure everyone here in the call knows Figma. Usually every designer is using it and really loves it. And it allows designers to very easily create a design system. But what about us as developers? We need to build the same in code. And for us, it's quite difficult to do so. So what Flutter teams have been doing a lot in the past is they created their own component libraries that they called, for example, the gallery apps, where they just had a representation of all of the different components that they used in the app. But very quickly, what is happening is it's quite difficult to maintain it. So at some point, you stop maintaining your gallery app, and then it gets out of sync and it's not really useful anymore. And then secondly, you usually don't have a lot of features in there, so you really just have a brief overview of your reusable components, and that's also already it. And that's why, yeah, it's barely usable for the teams. And why should you put so much time into it? Because it's usually not your core business. You could really spend those time on actual feature development. And that's why we decided to build Widgetbook, which is the storybook for Flutter. So in case anyone here in this call is coming from a web development background, probably you stumbled upon Storybook, because that's actually also the background that we have with our team. So we're coming from a web development background, always used Storybook in the past. And then when we switched to Flutter, we noticed, okay, wow, there's no Storybook solution here. And that's why we built it ourselves. Went to the first Flutter meetups, they really liked it. And then we said, okay, of course, we are open sourcing it, making it available for free for the Flutter community. And that's how Widgetbook started. And yeah, without further say, let's jump straight into it. So the first step that we need to do to include Widgetbook in our app, we need to, and that is something that we recommend you to do, we should follow a monorepo structure. What do I mean with a monorepo structure? So currently, I'm already in our demo app here, and usually you have your lib folder, and inside the lib folder, you then have all of your widgets listed. So what we, for example, had in this app, we have the lib folder, then we have a UI folder. In the UI folder, we have a widgets folder, and in here, we have a list of all of our widgets. And you can do one of two things. You can either use Widgetbook straight in that lib folder, but we recommend you to have a better separation between your widgets and your app. So what we did is we created a separate folder, a separate Widgetbook folder. And inside this Widgetbook folder, we're going to work from now on. And what the first thing is that you need to do is, after you created that folder, is you go into a pubspec YAML file, and in here, you need to include the Widgetbook dependencies. And the first, and it's kind of obvious, is you need to use Widgetbook. Then you need to use Widgetbook annotations. Widgetbook annotation will allow you to easily generate the structure for Widgetbook in close collaboration with the Widgetbook generator package. And then you also need the build runner. Those other dependencies are optional. And once you include those dependencies, we can already start cataloging the first widget. And let's start with a simple one. What you can do in order to tell Widgetbook which widgets you would like to include in the Widgetbook, you can make use of our annotations. And our annotations work in a way that you just write add use case, and then we have two required parameters. One is name, and the other is type. And the name is, in this case, we just want to have one use case of the widget, so we just call it default. The type is then just the widget. And this widget was being written before. So we already wrote it in our classic lib folder, but we decided, okay, let's go with a monorepo structure to have a better separation in our app, to be more professional. That's why we went with the monorepo structure. And then you just refer to the widget in your use case. And then you have a third optional parameter, design link, that allows you to link your Figma designs to your Flutter widget. That's something that we're going to cover later on. So we avoid that for now. And then the only thing missing is you need to write the method where we need a context. And in here, we're returning our icon button. And the icon button has two required parameters, icon and like an icon data icon and a function on pressed. And we need to mock those required parameters. And we can then do it if we write icon, and then in this case, we just choose an icon that we like. In this case, we say user, and then we are mocking the function as we do it here right now. And that's already all we got to do for now. That's how the icon button will be included in Widgetbook. And the second step is we don't want to build the entire Widgetbook structure from scratch. what we want to do is actually, we want to use the generator and the annotation here again to just generate the structure for us. And how we can do that is in our main.dart file in this new Widgetbook folder, we have an add app annotation, and that add app annotation in conjunction with our Widgetbook app that we're building here, where we're in the end just returning our Widgetbook is all we got to do. So all of those parameters that we are mentioning down here, they are coming later. They will be important in a few minutes. But for now, that's really all we got to do. And the next step for us is we're gonna let the pub build runner run again. And that build runner, I can quit that application here for now. So we can just let the build runner I'm getting to it. There it is. That's the command we're using. So we're just letting the build runner run to update the Widgetbook. And because we're using that build runner only in our Widgetbook file, it's actually quite fast. So usually we hear sometimes from customers that they are a bit afraid that the build runner might take a long time. But if you're only using it in your monorepo structure in your Widgetbook folder, as we see right now, it was really super quick. And then the next step that we can do now is we can run our everyone's favorite command, flutter run, to actually run the Widgetbook app. And here we then have the chance to either run it as a macOS build or as a Chrome build. Can do either of this. I now run it as a Chrome build. If you'd like to use it during development, it definitely makes sense to use the macOS build because you can then just benefit from hot reload. And then once it loads, we can then see Widgetbook in action. Let me put it to your screen as well. Okay, awesome. There we go. That is how Widgetbook looks in action. And we can see here the icon button that we just cataloged in Widgetbook is visible here. And it's not only that the icon button is visible, but we also already went ahead. I cheated a bit here. I already cataloged all the other widgets as well. So you get an overview of all the different widgets that you're using in your app that you cataloged in Widgetbook. And you can do so for very tiny widgets, like on an atom level, but you can go ahead in cataloging also more complex widgets. So for example, also a basket card or also entire pages into Widgetbook. And you can then catalog your widgets, not only for one use case and one state, but for different use cases and states. So this page here, for example, has two use cases. One is empty and the other is non-empty, where we actually have groceries filled in our groceries basket. And everything that we are then seeing here in Widgetbook is interactive. So it's not a screenshot or a PNG file, but it's the actual widget. So we have the chance to easily also interact with it and then see, for example, how the total is going up. So it helps us to not only check the UI of the app, but also the user experience. And with that, we are set for the first part of Widgetbook, because that's how you can build your own design system with Widgetbook. I'm now gonna focus on how you can also use Widgetbook to quickly test all of your widgets in different use cases using add-ons and knobs. But before that, I would like to give you the chance to ask any question if you have one until here. If not, it's also great. I know everything was clearly explained and we can go on. But if you have any question, feel free to either write it in the chat, or you can also unmute yourself and just ask the question. Okay, awesome. Doesn't look like there is a question. Then let me go on. And I'm going to show you how you can use add-ons and knobs in Widgetbook as well. So what we just learned was how can we catalog the icon button. The icon button was then previewed for us in just one configuration. But what we can do is we can also use add-ons in Widgetbook to see all of our widgets also in many different and further configurations that we call add-ons. And you can use add-ons in your main.dart file of the Widgetbook, where you, for example, and that's really just an example. So this demo app that we have here only covers a few add-ons by now, also with the help of our amazing community. So we now have about 3,000 users actively in our Discord server. That also helped us building more and more add-ons. But one example add-on is the device frame add-on that you can use. And that device frame add-on allows you to preview your widgets, as the name suggests, on different device frames. So for example, an iPhone 13 or an iPad. Then we also have a localization add-on. And the localization add-on allows you to test your widgets against different languages. So for example, in German, in English, in Spanish, in Dutch, pretty much any language you'd like to use. You can also use in Arabic to test not only left to right, but also right to left language. You can also, with the theme add-on, quickly test your widgets in different themes, so in light and dark mode. And the great thing about those add-ons is they are globally defined. So you define them just once in your Widgetbook app, in your main.dart file, and then you can just use them throughout your Widgetbook. And let's see them in action. So here on the right side, in Widgetbook Cloud, we have the chance to use add-ons and also knobs. For the knobs, we're going to cover them later. But for the add-ons, we now here have the chance to see all of our widgets in iPhone 13 or also an iPad device. And these are just two devices that we choose here for the demo app. You can use whatever device that you like. So pre-configured in Widgetbook, we are supporting nearly every Apple device. There are also some Samsung mobile phones that we are supporting. In case you want to use any device frames, any devices that are not configured in the Widgetbook yet, you can always build your own custom device as well that you can use. Then you have the chance to easily check your widgets in German and English. You also have the chance to check your widgets in light and dark mode. And yeah, thereby you can test your widgets really in a lot of different configurations. And this is in the end, Taha is already asking, what is a zoom add-on? A zoom add-on, unfortunately, it's not used in the demo app. That's why I cannot showcase it to you right now here. But in the end, how it's going to work, Taha, is you have the chance to toggle here a button that then says, okay, zoom is on, and then my cursor is going to change. So my cursor is in the end similar to my glasses, gonna work a bit like a zoom. So if I then hover over, for example, this button here, the button is gonna get bigger, and then I can inspect the widget further. I hope it had, yeah, perfect. That is cool. Okay, thanks. Do you guys have any other questions regarding the add-ons right now? Because if not, I would jump to the knobs. Okay, amazing. Doesn't look like it, but please, I mean, especially like given the example from Taha, if you have any questions, just feel free to write in the chat. Either I spot it immediately on the go. If not, my colleague Julius will remind me that we're coming back to the question later on. So next up are knobs, and for the knobs, we're going to choose one of our widgets here where we have knobs configured. Yeah, we can, for example, choose this primary button here. So the primary button we included it in Widgetbook, similar to the icon button with the use case annotation. And then this primary button has the required parameter, content. And this content here takes a string. And what we did with the icon button with the required parameters, we immediately provided the mock for it. But what you can do as well is you can use knobs to be able to dynamically override the mock data in the Widgetbook UI without having to rerun the emulator, without actually having to touch the code. So it's also going to later on help non-developers like designers, QA testers, product managers to create different states of your widget. And this primary button here, for example, we now just write context.knobs.string to be able to dynamically override the string. We provide it with a label. That label is going to appear in the Widgetbook UI. And then we need an initial value. In this case, yeah, we were not so creative, so we just called it text. And we can then check in Widgetbook. We can go to the primary button, and here we see primary button is text. That's the initial value that we can see. And now dynamically, we can override the content. If we go with Taha's comment, so cool, we have the chance to very easily override it. And if we now go with a longer text input here, we know that at some point, wow, there's an overflow happening. And because Widgetbook is in the end just a Flutter app running inside your Flutter app, you have the chance to also use Flutter dev tools here. And that's why Widgetbook will automatically show you if there's an overflow happening. And that's why Widgetbook is not only a helpful tool for developers to provide an overview of all of the different widgets that you have to create your own design system, but it's also a tool that you can use when you're developing to very quickly make sure Widgetbook really works well in all the different use cases and states that you imagined. And string, that is also important to mention, it's just one data type that we are supporting. Because in Widgetbook, every data type is supported. So you can choose from a huge list of different knobs that are available. And in case there's any knob that is missing, again, you also have the chance to build your own custom knob as well. And with that, we're done with the knobs. We quickly covered it just in the code. Do you guys have any questions regarding the knobs? Because at this point in time, we're already done with the open source package. So we learned how you can build your own design system with Widgetbook and how you can then quickly test your widgets in its different use cases. And if you'd like to get started with the open source package, you can check out our docs. They are available under docs.widgetbook.io in the current version. Later this week, we're gonna publish our new docs. So we are, as we are speaking, some of our team members are behind me in the other room in the office, currently working on the new version of the docs because we have some exciting Widgetbook Cloud features that I'm gonna share later with you to better showcase. So there's also a new version for the docs coming. But as I see, no questions in the chats. Oh, okay, there's a question from Lynn. Let me make it bigger. So Lynn is asking, is there any possibility to automatically detect, for example, if button component can be of type text, outlined, contained, then create a select knob with those options? Or does the developer always have to specify them manually? So what you need to do, Lynn, is you always, so in case you have a button that has different required parameters, also different optional parameters that you'd like to, where you like to enable the user of the Widgetbook UI to dynamically change it, you then always need to build the knob yourself. So it's not possible for us, at least yet, unfortunately, to generate the knob for you. Yeah, so you have to specify it yourself manually. Awesome. But if you have any further questions about it, we are also super happy to help you. So if you don't really know how to get started best with the knobs, I can really highly recommend you to check out our app here, our demo app. So what I'm going to do with all of you in this webinar, we are going to send an email after this webinar later tonight, where we're going to share the presentation with you that I'm giving here, where we're also going to share the repository of the demo app, so that you can also check it again in code how everything works. And if you then have further questions, we're happily inviting you to our Discord server, and then you can just feel free to ask more questions there. We're super happy to help. Hey, amazing. And with that, let's dive into Widgetbook Cloud. And first of all, what is Widgetbook Cloud actually trying to do? So I believe many of us, unfortunately, have been in this situation before, where we build something, we then showed it to the designer before we shipped it to the client, and the designer tore it apart and was really not satisfied with what we built. We don't really know why, because in our opinion, everything worked well. For the designer, it didn't. It was just miscommunication that happened, and we want to avoid that. And to give you a better overview of how we're doing it, I'm showing you now a usual designer-developer workflow that our customers had before they used Widgetbook. So usually how it works is you have your design in Figma, then you hand it over to developers, usually with Figma's dev mode. The developer is then implementing that design in code, is creating a pull request. This pull request is being reviewed by fellow developers in the code review. If the code is great, code is going to be merged, and then the QA tester quickly tests the app before it's being released to the customer. And then we have the deployment, and finally the release where the customer can use the app. This process works really well for detecting bugs in the code, because we have a code review, and we can use tools like GitHub, GitLab, Azure DevOps, Bitbucket, or other Git providers to easily do a pull request review where we detect the bug in the pull request, and we can just fix it with the developer. Easy done. It also works well if the QA tester detects a bug. We also have a structured process for that. So the QA tester detects a bug, and the developer can then also fix it. Also, usually not the biggest issue. Where it becomes really cumbersome is if we don't have a UI review process, which many teams either don't have or only have in a limited way. Because what happens is, if you are lacking a proper UI review, you can have implementation issues that are then shipped all the way to the customer, and the customer then experiences poor user experience that drives customer churn. And the issue is that designers often are really frustrated that they are not involved in the development process a lot. Because designers, in the end, if we want to involve them, they have quite a hard time reviewing the design, because they often don't know what exactly do they need to review. They don't know how they can create all those testing reviews if we finally enable them to review. And they also don't know how to provide precise feedback. So it's first of all us as developers to enable the designer to actually do a review. But we as developers, we're often struggling with that enablement, because we as developers need to know, okay, what are actually all the latest visual changes? Because the designer doesn't need to review the entire app, right? And then how do we share those changes with designers? What I've seen a lot of companies do in the past is the developer just assumed, okay, these were my visual changes, or if it's already a great process, the team might already run golden tests, or the developers might already run golden tests to be really sure, okay, what are all the visual changes that happened? and then they share these screenshots with designers, for example, via Slack, or if the designers are a bit more proficient, they might also be able to use a tool like GitHub already. So we can actually include the designers in the pull request, and then share the screenshots there. And then designers can give us feedback on the screenshots in the pull request. But the question is then, if something is wrong now, how does the designer properly communicate feedback? So maybe they draw a circle somewhere and then write a comment to it. So not so easy. And that's why designers also have a hard time reviewing the design, because they might know in this scenario where we run golden tests, they might know what they need to review, but how do they now create all those different test scenarios, and how also do they compare their Flutter implementation to the Figma design? And in the end, how do they provide precise feedback? And what is usually happening is kind of like an infinite loop where designers and developers are working together a lot, but they are working together usually quite late. So the design was reviewed, it's being shipped it's being handed over to the developer. Then there's a developer review, and then the QA tester also already approved it. So we wrote already great code. QA tester is already in the moment of approving it. Then we might have a UI review here, but only might. We might not catch every error. So there could still be an unstructured process, which could still bear UI UX risks, and then there might be iteration happening. So it's really a cumbersome process. So that's usually status quo. And with Widgetbook Cloud, we can simplify the UI reviews. So what we recommend our teams, our customers to do is, you still have your design process in Figma. You still do the handover in Figma. Then you implement it in code. But then when you do your pull request, you have your developer review still, your code review. That's nice. But you also have a UI review with Widgetbook. And you include the designer on every pull request to be able to very quickly and very easily iterate with the designer in a structured process where we automatically detect all of the UI changes for you and give you a structured review process where your designers can give precise feedback. Then you pass it to QA, and then you can release it. In the end, the designers are involved very early in the implementation process for review and approval, and your customers will be satisfied because no UI UX bugs make it in the end to the release. And here, showing again the number from the beginning, our customers found that their developers and designers save 20% of their time by using Widgetbook Cloud. And with that, I'd love to jump into Widgetbook Cloud to show you, first of all, how you can share your widgets easily with your team, how you can detect all of your UI changes, and then how you can review all of your UI changes. So first of all, let's see hosting in action. So how that works is, when we say, amazing, we'd like to host our widgetbook on Widgetbook Cloud, we can just, in the end, commit our latest changes to our repository, and we can include Widgetbook in our CI/CD pipeline. I don't want to bore you too much with this step, but it's a very simple process where we're just checking out the latest Widgetbook build, basically. And if we do so, and we have Widgetbook connected to our repository, we have the chance to see one Widgetbook build per command. And we can then either access the Widgetbook build via our Widgetbook Cloud UI, or we can access it straight from GitHub. And then in the end, what we're going to see is a list of all of the builds that happened. In this case, it's a tiny demo project, a demo app that we have. So not too many builds happened here, but in your case, you would probably see a longer list of builds where you can always see the name of the branch and then also the latest commit with it. And by clicking on visit, you then have the chance to access the Widgetbook with your team. And you have then two options. Either you just copy paste that link to share it with your team, or you invite your team on your GitHub pull request and have them then see a widget book per build from GitHub. And that is how you can easily host your widget book and share it with your entire team. And that is already great if you want to share the entire overview, all of the widgets with your team. But if you really want to benefit from a structured review process, what we recommend you to do is to make use of our review feature. And that review feature integrates really well with your pull request. And how that works is we can now imagine we are making a change to any of our widgets. So for example, we have our primary button here, and we want to change our primary button. So let's, for example, right now, we have a border radius of our button that is full. So currently, the radius is, currently the widget is really round, and we want to make it, let's go full extreme and go from full, we go to none, for example. So we just changed this button here, and what we can do now is we can commit these changes and open a pull request. I don't want to go through this entire process with you and wait on the different builds. So we already did that in the past, and that's why we already created a pull request for exactly this change. And what Git providers like GitHub are already really good at is they can show you exactly what lines of code were changed. In this case, we can see, okay, amazing. That's exactly what I changed. GitHub can show us that change, but what GitHub cannot show us is what changed visually in the code. So GitHub cannot tell us what visual changes occurred because of that code change. That is something that we can do for you with Widgetbook Cloud. So we have the chance to access from Widgetbook Cloud that review feature, or we could also access it from the Widgetbook Cloud UI, and then we get a list of all of the different widgets that were changed. And what we see here right now is on the left side, we can see that's how the widget looked before. So that's how the widget looks on the base build, versus on the right side, that's how the widget that's how the widget looks right now on the head build. And if it's a simple widget, like this primary button, yeah, it's quite easy to spot. But this primary button was also used in two screens here. And because it was used in those screens and it was changed, we also see the changed screens in here. And if we're not sure if there may be more changes here, so we can always use the toggle diff button to toggle or to highlight the difference for us in pink. That is then showing us exactly, okay, perfect, that is what changed. And if we're happy with the changes, we can then review the changes and say, okay, let's approve the changes, can then submit a review. And if we submit the review and everything is great, amazing, we can safely merge with confidence. If you would say, no, we don't like it, we want to request changes, then what we set by default is we prevent you from merging a pull request. Because at this point, you really shouldn't ship to customers if your changes were not accepted. So that is how you can easily review better with Widgetbook. And you do not only have the chance to compare visually those two screenshots, you always have the chance to also check my widgets again in Widgetbook. So just one click away, the chance to properly inspect the Widgetbook with all the different add-ons and knobs. And also one click away, you always have the chance to also check your widgets in Figma. So unfortunately, right now I can only share one screen with you, but usually you could imagine that I'm having both screens set up here, where on one screen I can see my Figma file, and on the other screen I can see my my Flutter implementation. And how we do the Flutter linking or the Figma linking is just in the Widgetbook use case that we mentioned previously. And as I said, we have one more feature that we shipped lately with Widgetbook Cloud that I would love to share with you as well. But first of all, I would like to give you the chance again of asking questions in case you have any right now. Also going to quickly check the chat for it. Hey, I see 2 questions. Nice. One is from Albert. Albert asked, are you recommending to make designers leave further apart from just accepting, rejecting feedback on, for example, GitHub? Or are you maybe looking for a way to incorporate that into Widgetbook Cloud too? Yes. So Albert, right now, what I would recommend you to do is right now, invite your designers to your pull request to GitHub, for example. So that is already working really well for other customers of ours. But we are, as we speak, one of our developers is actually working on a comment feature, and today we already had the first customer interviews on the comment prototype on it. Actually, Albert, if you like, I can also send you an invite later. So then you can also join the prototype call. Yeah. Okay. Amazing. Then Hamza asked, hey Lucas, when you say host, does this mean Widgetbook Cloud can be self-hosted? Yes. So there are 2 options of how you can use Widgetbook Cloud. Option number 1 is you can just use the SaaS solution of Widgetbook Cloud, meaning you are just hosting your Widgetbook on Widgetbook Cloud. So in the end, on our server. And here it's super important to clarify what are we doing with your data and with your code, and let's say how crucial is your data that we are hosting on Widgetbook Cloud, because that's a question that we get a lot. And what is really important to state first of all is that we don't have access to your source code. So while you're connecting your repository to Widgetbook Cloud, to be able to have those different checks that I mentioned here on GitHub, for example, so that you, for example, have the chance to see the Widgetbook build in your pull request or the Widgetbook review in the pull request. What we're doing, and that in the end becomes more obvious also if I open our docs page now and we go to the hosting page. Yeah, exactly here, for example. So this is how you host a Widgetbook build on Widgetbook Cloud. So first you're going to run the build runner, then you are building a Flutter web instance of your Widgetbook. You're activating the Widgetbook CLI, and then you're pushing the Widgetbook build to Widgetbook Cloud. That's the first time you're really interacting with the cloud. So you're already building your Widgetbook on your end. So we're not even building it. So you are building it. We are just hosting it on Widgetbook Cloud. So we don't have access to your source code. The only thing that we in the end have access to, or that you store on Widgetbook Cloud, is your hosted instance, but no access from our side on your source code. And then what we're doing is we're also hosting the screenshots. So in the end, in order for us to run the comparison, to understand, okay, that's how the widget looked before, that's how the widget looks now. In order to be able to do the comparison, when you create the pull request, we need to store those screenshots that we're producing with every build you're doing. So these are the 2 types of data we're storing. So storing your Widgetbook build and we're storing those snapshots, but that's all. And in the end, all the snapshots that we're storing, and all the widgets that are included in your widget book, they consist of mock data anyways. So usually those widgets don't have any customer specific data in them anyways. That's why the data is usually not sensitive. And that's why we see even very big enterprises just using the SaaS solution, just using the usual Widgetbook Cloud version. But if you still like to go with self-hosted option, we have it. It's available in an enterprise plan. So if you're interested in that, just feel free to shoot me an email, and we can also get you started with the self-hosted plan. And then a question from Dan. Can you trigger the GitHub Widgetbook step only at specific moments, like when having a GitHub label? Yes, Dan, you can do so. I don't actually know. I know that Albert here is in the call from LeanCode. I don't know how they are doing it now by heart, but we have multiple customers that, for example, how they are doing it is they have a specific branch. So they know, for example, okay, in this branch, I made some visual changes. So I write, for example, -WB to the branch name, and then only that build is being triggered and sent to Widgetbook. Okay, follow-up question. How do you manage and ensure reviews are approved by designers and not just the developers themselves? Yes, that's a good question. And unfortunately, I think I cannot show you in this review here because I think I'm the only one. Unfortunately, it's my own demo project here. But usually you can see a list of reviewers here, and what you can then do is you can basically see who already reviewed something in Widgetbook, and can thereby make sure that not only developers but actually also designers are approving it. So that is possible. Yeah. Okay. I don't see any. Okay, Taha, can we share a Widgetbook link for view only to anyone? Yes, Taha, great question. And that is possible. So here again, you have two options. And by default, all the links here. So for example, I'm just sharing this link now in the chat here, just to prove it to you. All of you, if you like, you can just click on that link, and then you have the chance to access this widget book that I just shared. So by default, you can just share this link with anyone. They don't even need a Widgetbook account and can then access your widget book. No worries. That URL that we have here is encrypted, meaning it's basically impossible for someone to know what your URL are. So it's in the end very hard to find out what your Widgetbook build URL could be. But in case you want to be super secure here and only want users to access your Widgetbook build if they have a Widgetbook Cloud account, that is also something that we provide you with in an enterprise plan. Okay, if there are no further questions right now, then I'm going to show you the last feature in Widgetbook Cloud, which we recently shipped, and that is a feature that we call multi-snapshot reviews. Because what I already showed you is in the pull request, what would be quite nice is to not having to go in a build to then see, okay, how does this look now, for example, in light and dark mode? Is it properly implemented? Is it properly implemented for the different languages and so on? To not having to do that manually. So what we provide you with now is a way to test that automatically. In the end, golden testing or UI regression testing against all your different add-ons, and in the future also knobs. So right now we started with the add-ons, and you can configure that globally as well. So in your add app annotation, we now have the optional cloud add-ons configs parameter. And here we can configure the different options that we'd like to test. And in our case, we'd like to test 4 options, and that is German light, German dark, English light, English dark. And that basically says, okay, I'd like to test my localizations in German, theme in light. And then again, language German, theme dark, same for English. And then we're automatically taking snapshots then for you in all those different configurations. And on Widgetbook Cloud, we are then able to show you that. So for our pull request here, for example, with the multi-snapshots, it's going to look like this. So we're going to get a list again of all of our changes, where we again on the left side see that's how the widget looked before, versus that's how the widget looks now, but in those different configurations. And then you, for example, have the chance now to see it in a different language and in a different theme. You can also test it in all those other add-ons that you like. Any questions regarding this feature? Okay, at least so far, I don't see any hand shooting up. That's why we now managed to go through the open source Widgetbook and Widgetbook Cloud. So now you know how you can keep your design and code in sync by, first of all, sharing your widgets with your team by hosting Widgetbook builds. How you can then also detect all of the different UI changes by automating your golden tests, and how you can then also review all of your UI changes with a structured review process. And also, as a bonus, you were one of the first to hear and to see the multi-snapshot reviews in action. And with that, again, mentioning that our customers have been saving 20% of their time for both developers and designers through this process. And with that, your designers and developers can live happily together ever after, and even dance a bit together. And if you would like to get access to Widgetbook Cloud, you can do so today. You can just go to our website, widgetbook.io, to access it. We have a free plan for you to get started. Same for the open source package. You can just use it for free. We have a usage limit, so also good to know you can invite as many users as you like. So in the end, we only care about usage. So only if you really benefit a lot from Widgetbook Cloud, then you actually start paying for it. We believe it's a very fair model. If you don't have any further questions, then I would kindly ask my colleague Julius to send you one last type form. It's going to take 30 seconds. It's going to help us a lot because it's the first time that we are hosting this webinar, and we of course want to improve ourselves. And not only are we constantly trying to improve the product for you, but also our webinars, presentations, talks that we're giving. So it would be amazing if you can take 30 seconds to quickly help us with a type form. And simultaneously, I'm going to answer a question from Dan. Okay, Dan writes, besides multi-snapshots, what are some of the bigger features released in the last 12 months? Also, is there a roadmap? Okay, so Dan, there has been a lot that we built in the past 12 months. So I mean, I'm sorry, Albert, but I think there are not too many that use Widgetbook in this call already for such a long time. So picking on Albert here again, in case I forget something. I know that Albert is using Widgetbook already for over 12 months now. So basically, 12 months ago, we only had hosting. We didn't have a structured review process yet with the team. That's why to basically maybe show it now with the Widgetbook UI. That's a bit easier. So what we already had 12 months ago was hosting. So you could already host one or multiple Widgetbook Cloud builds. What you couldn't do is we didn't have pull request integration. So you didn't have the chance to actually have a structured review process with your Widgetbook. And the first thing that we did was we allowed you to golden test or automatically UI regression tested, and therefore made sure that we captured all of your visual changes in the side-by-side comparison. Afterwards, that's all really nice, but how about a Figma integration? So we built a Figma integration. And first, Figma was included in Widgetbook itself as well, so that you can, in Widgetbook Cloud, see Flutter against Figma. The issue, though, was we only had the iframe of Figma, which was quite limited in features, and especially designers cared a lot about more specific features in Figma. So what designers really wanted to have is they didn't just want to see it, but they wanted to have the chance to really inspect the widgets further in Figma. So we said, okay, let's have the link to Figma. Then once that was done, we built that structured, or we built that review check, also something that Albert was really looking forward to. So that we have the chance to really approve and reject changes from Widgetbook, and then communicate also back to GitHub, meaning you should be prevented from merging before it was really accepted. And once that was done, then we worked on the multi-snapshot reviews, and once the multi-snapshot reviews worked, we then built further Git integrations. So we started with GitHub. Now we also support GitLab and Azure DevOps, and we're also going to support Bitbucket soon. We are confident, so we surveyed our Widgetbook Cloud, our open source Widgetbook users, and the signups for Widgetbook Cloud. So we had a waiting list for a few months for Widgetbook Cloud, and everyone had to mention what are their Git providers. And with those 4 Git providers, fortunately, we are about done with them. In case you need further Git providers, let us know. And simultaneously, we also worked on self-hosting. Was a lot that we covered with our team, but fortunately, we have an amazing team, and we managed to build all of that. What we're now doing is we're working on comments. So pretty much the question that Albert already had, where should I currently leave feedback? Currently, what most of our customers are doing, they leave feedback in their Git provider. So for example, in GitHub. But we want to enable you to give comment or to leave comments straight in Widgetbook Cloud in your review. In the end, it's going to be quite similar to GitHub, where you can in GitHub, when you want to say, hey, something was changed here, I can leave a comment, and then, or oops, I want to review something, so I can leave a comment and then say approve, request changes, submit the review, and then I'm done with it. So it's going to be quite similar experience to that. And that's the next feature that we're working on. And the question is there? Your other question is there like a public roadmap? And a public roadmap, not really. So how we handled it in the past was that with our existing customers, we've been really close in touch with them. So I've picking Albert here again. So I don't know how many calls I had, for example, with Albert in the past 12 months. Definitely a lot, definitely a few. So with our existing customers, we just have a very close collaboration, and that's why usually also with the existing customers together, we're aligning on the roadmap and making sure, okay, we're shipping as much value as possible in the least possible time to them. And that's why so far we don't have like this one, I don't know, roadmap.widgetbook.io where you can see what we're working on next. But usually we're announcing it in very, very short batches. But it's it's definitely something that we're currently taking into consideration of having a public roadmap soon as well. And then question from Georgie Val, can we rewatch this meeting after? Yes, you can. So I'm recording this call, and I have to tell you, unfortunately, with Google Meet, it always takes a while until the recording is being processed. But once it's processed, we're going to upload this recording to our YouTube channel. And then you can watch it yourself. You can also share it with your team. And what I mentioned already is after this webinar, and like first of all, we're going to wait for this recording, and we're going to push it to Widgetbook, to our Widgetbook channel, and then we're going to send you an email with all the different materials that are interesting for you to very quickly get started with the package, with the cloud, and also to have more material and information in hand. To also, if you are, for example, a developer, and you first of all need to get the approval from your manager to work on Widgetbook, and that you really have all the arguments readily prepared, that you are allowed to start integrating Widgetbook in your current project. And if you have any further questions besides from that, please let us know. So I'm going to send you an email anyways, and you have my email, and you can also reach us on social media. Or what's always amazing is if you just jump straight in our Discord server and ask questions there. We are always happy to help. And with that, last call for any questions. In case you don't have a question anymore, we're ending that webinar. Thank you so much for being here, for your interest in Widgetbook. Highly appreciate it. A question from Albert: when is the grocery launch planned? That's a great idea. Actually, a little side story. That was the first Flutter app I ever built. So that app started, I think, 2018. One of the first apps we built. Thanks, guys. Bye, Jakub.